Hi there, my name is Pat Fader. I'm an instructor at Milwaukee Area Technical College, and I wanted to demonstrate how we can use some of the tools that Microsoft gives us to assist with the deployment of Windows 7, to automate the deployment of Windows 7. It's a bit confusing when I teach a class. Microsoft gives us a lot of tools. They're not the easiest to follow, and normally, students get so involved with, they kind of lose sight of the big picture of how we would go about deploying Windows 7. So that's kind of what the intent of this is. Additionally, what I thought I would do is actually talk about a real life example of where I use these tools to help a local school in the area. What the challenge was with the school is we wanted to create a model Windows 7 machine and then push that image out to a bunch of the computers in the labs in the school. But there were a couple issues. One, the school's network infrastructure wasn't great, so we didn't want to push it out over a network. Two, the IT staff was minimal. They had one IT person, and supporting the school's IT was only part of his job duties. Believe it or not, he was part administrator, and he was also a cook at the school. This is a nonprofit school with operating on a shoestring budget, so there wasn't a lot of time he had. So what we decided to do was actually customize a Windows 7 professional DVD, and we would take our model computer, create an image file from that, and then take an image file and overwrite the image file that ships on your standard Windows 7 professional DVD. So a student could take the DVD, they could put it in one of their computers, run through the install, and when they were done with the install, they would have a customized Windows 7 machine versus the standard one you get when you do a regular install. In addition, we used an answer file that I guess you could think of, we embedded it on this model computer, so that when we took this image and put it on the DVD, when we installed off the DVD, a lot of the user interactions were minimized. The student didn't have to enter in the language, the time zone, the product key, that type thing. So I'll back up a little bit and let's just take a look at the general flow of what we did. I had to download and install the Windows Automated Installation Kit, and I just did this on a machine that was, I think I did it on my laptop actually. I'll refer to it as the host computer. That machine was just hosting the Wake. The Wake, again, is just some tools that it's a free download from Microsoft, and it's a collection of tools that helps you to deploy Windows operating system images, these WIM files I mentioned, to target machines. So I installed the Wake. I used the Wake to create the Windows PE CD, and I also used the Wake to create an unattended answer file. The Windows PE CD, it's a bootable CD, and it's a lightweight version of Windows that can be used to help deploy operating systems as well as troubleshoot them. So your entire OS is encapsulated on the CD, and you can actually put that same environment on a USB or other things as well. But we burned ours to a CD, and the CD is used. What we use the CD for is after we configured our model computer, we shut the machine down. We put the CD in the model machine, we booted it up again, it booted off of the CD, and then we use the tools on that CD to capture the OS, and we copied it off to a drive somewhere. And then from there we had to take that single file that was created and move it onto a Windows 7 DVD. So that's a general flow of the process. I'll jump back to this, maybe to help refer to it back as we're going through the steps. But right now, what I want to do is kind of demonstrate the creation of the Windows PE CD. Heads up, I'm not going to talk about how we created the unattended .xml file that was used for as an answer file for installation. That's kind of a topic in and of itself, and that would make this video way too long. Alright, so I'm on a Windows 7 machine now that I've installed the Wake, the Windows Automated Installation Kit on. And what I thought I would do is, let's just get to the command prompt. When you install the Wake, you get this deployment tools command prompt. I'm going to run this as an administrator. And we're going to create the Windows PE CD. I have some notes that I'm using as I run through this, and I actually made these notes available on my website. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Here's my website. If you just Google my name, this should be the top hit. But under Windows ITnet 110, I have my Windows 7 imaging notes, and that kind of runs through what I want to talk about. I'm glad I did this because there's one thing. Microsoft has made like 5 videos, they're about 2 or 3 minutes long a piece, that kind of give an overview of this process as well and the tools that are used. I highly recommend taking a look at these, especially if you plan on implementing this for real. So here we go. So I want to right now run this command that will create a working directory, a Windows PE folder on my computer, as well as it'll put the tools, and it'll get us ready to create our Windows PE CD. So I'm going to pause this while I run this, while this command runs. Alright, it's done running. That took about a minute or two. If you haven't noticed, I'm doing this all in VMware Workstation, so I'm just running this on some virtual machines. So what we've done is we've created this Windows PE folder. That's what the tool did, and it did add a bunch of, it created a bunch of tools, right? It created a structure that we can be then used to create our Windows PE CD. Well, one of the things that I need is we're going to use a tool called ImageX, and ImageX will be used to actually capture the C drive on our model computer and capture that, or compress it, capture it, and put it into a file called install.wim. So we're going to take all the entire folder structure and of our C drive and the information that's on there and put it into a single file, install.wim. And that WIM file is what's going to end up on our Windows 7 DVD. So let's jump back here. So the steps are these steps are also in that Microsoft screencast I mentioned, but once we've created this folder structure, we have to do 2 things. One is I have to move the Windows PE.wim file into a folder called, here, I'll just do it real quick. Let's go to the C drive. I could use the command prompt, but I want to take the Windows PE.wim and I want to put that into our folder called sources. And then once that's done, I have to rename it to boot.wim. I'll pause this while this copies. Okay, that's done. Now I'm going to name this boot.wim. That's just required. I also want to take the program ImageX that I just previously mentioned, and let's see if I can find it here. Here we go. Program files, Windows Automated Installation Kit, Tools, x86, ImageX. This is the program that that's going to be used to capture our C drive of our model computer, and you just want to add that to the ISO folder that was created by that Windows PE command. I forgot to mention when I ran that Windows PE command, I used the x86 switch here, x86. I guess I specified the x86 architecture, which means this is a 32-bit version of Windows PE. So this will be used for deploying 32-bit operating systems. You can also, instead of x86, I could have put an AMD 64 if I was going to use it to deploy like a 64-bit operating system. And this IA64, I think, is for the Microsoft's or the Itanium architecture. But anyways, I'm doing a 32-bit install, so I used x86 here. Okay. Well, we're almost done. all that I need to do now is take this folder structure that was created. Let's see if I can go here. So the folder structure being, you know, the tool created this Windows PE folder, and I want to take what's in the ISO folder and create like a boot CD from that. And we do that from the command prompt, and I don't know a lot about it. I just know that I type it in and it works. Here's the command. So this is OSCD image command, and I am specifying that our output file is going to be winpe.iso, and you can tell that the winpe directory is where the information is coming from. So let's let it go. I'll pause it, and we'll see what's created. It's done. And if we see what's in here, we'll see that I now have a Windows PE.iso. So this is something that I could then burn to a CD and then boot a physical machine off of. Since I'm using VMware Workstation, I think I'll just demonstrate real quick what this will look like. So I'm going to create a new machine, new virtual machine. Next. I'll install the OS later. I'm just creating basically a shell of a machine right now. Here it is. And I'm going to configure the machine to boot off that. Oh. Since I have the VMware tools installed on this host here, it's kind of nice. I can actually just drag files that were on this machine. I can drag them to my desktop, which you can't see. Alright, I've copied that to my desktop, and now I'm going to tell this machine to boot, configure this machine to boot off of that ISO. It's an ISO image. Desktop. There it is. And let's just start it up. Let's see what happens. I'm going to pause it while it boots up. I just let it pause it for a second. You can tell that it looks almost like Windows is starting up. But this is the Windows PE environment, which is a lightweight operating system. And back in the day, we'd boot off MS-DOS disks, and now we boot off Windows PE CD. All right, so it's just about up. We've booted, and we're going to get to the command prompt. It looks kind of we're there. And what can I do? Not a lot, but I believe that the D drive is the CD-ROM that we booted off of. And if you look, here's our ImageX program. So I could then use ImageX. There's some. We'll talk about it, but I could use ImageX to then push an image to this machine, or capture an image from this machine. So I just wanted to show you that yes, the Windows PE CD does work. So far, what have we done? So far, I've taken the wake and I've used it to create a Windows PE CD, and that Windows PE CD has ImageX on it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to our model computer, and I'll show you how we'll use the unattend.xml and Windows PE CD to create an image file from our model computer. So here's the model computer, and I've installed a few applications on it. Incidentally, if you're not familiar with this, what I did is I just went to this site called 99.com, and it's a pretty cool site that lets you quickly create an installer for applications on a machine. So I know this is adding another minute onto the video, but I think if you're not familiar with the site, you should be. So I had a clean machine. I went through and just said, I want to install Chrome, Firefox. I wanted to add image burn. It's a nice burning. I'll use this utility in a little bit. And whatever else, 7-zip. Get the installer for it. You download it and you run it. and it just installs these applications on your machine. So it's a really cool thing, cool site. So I created a model machine. I customized it with a few applications. I changed the background on it just because, and now I'm ready to create an image file. So I have to do two things prior to imaging this machine. One is I took our answer file, which is called unattend.xml, and I put it in the Windows System32 Sysprep folder. So that's our answer file. And one of the things is when you go through an unattended installation, it forces you to create a user account. So I think my answer file specifies a user called test, but I don't want a user called test on my machine. So then we found a way to, when the machine first boots up, to delete that user account. So we'll take a look at that real quick, how we accomplish that. Alright, so I have to go to our C drive, Windows, Setup, Scripts, and I actually had to create the Scripts folder. And in the Scripts folder I put this little command file here. Let's edit it. It does two things. It deletes our user called test with a net user command, and it also deletes our unattend.xml. So basically, after we've done an unattended installation based on this machine's image, I don't want that answer file hanging around, because one of the things I put in the answer file was our product key. So I don't want that getting out. Okay. So I put the unattended answer file in our Sysprep folder, and I have added that little. I created that little script that's going to run, that's going to clean up the machine after the installation is complete. You can Google that, that setup command, that setup complete.command file, and you'll find there's information about what it does. But basically, it's a script that runs one time after you're following an installation. So now what we need to do is we need to Sysprep this machine. So we go back to our diagram here. I have a model machine that's been customized. I've added unattended.xml to it. I've also added setupcomplete.command to the machine, and now we're going to Sysprep it. When we run Sysprep it, it's going to shut the machine down, and it's also going to generalize the information that's regarding the hardware, and kind of take some of the machine-specific information out, like the machine name, your network settings, your time zone. That's all going to get stripped out so that we can use the resultant image and pretty much push it to any other kind of computer that's out there. Which amazes me. So I could take this image created on a virtual machine in Workstation and actually push it out to a physical machine. So let's do that. Alright. Actually, I'm just going to run the command. I'm going to go to the command prompt again. I'm going to run it as an administrator. You can actually, instead of picking run as administrator, you can just hit type in command. I think it's Control Shift Enter, and that just runs that application as an administrator. Here we go. I need to go into our Sysprep folder. So here's our program I want to run, sysprep.exe, and here's our answer file on attend.xml. So let me just copy and paste this from our from my notes that I mentioned previously. Copy, paste. So we're going to run the sysprep command. This stands for out-of-box experience. We're going to generalize it, meaning remove the hardware-specific information, remove like the user, like the machine name and some of your basic network settings, and we're going to shut it down. The next time the machine boots up, we want it to use our unattend.xml file to assist with the installation. So let's just run this, and we'll see if it works. I just unpaused. While this is running, I wanted to mention that again, the commands that I'm typing in are They are all in that my note sheet that I have posted on my website. So that command we just ran, Sysprep, is it somewhere close? Here it is. This is what I just ran. So again, these are my notes, and I've tried to add screenshots and stuff to help you after you've watched this video. We'll go back and we'll see how we're doing. I'm going to pause it again. This is going to take a bit. All right. Well, it's not that exciting. Our Sysprep program ran and then it shut the machine down. So at this point, I'd want to take the state of our C drive on this machine and copy it to an image file. You know, one of the nice things about Workstation is you can take snapshots. So I actually took a Sysprep when I ran through this ahead of time, and after I hit this state, I created a snapshot. I called it Sysprepped. So this is kind of neat, actually. I could test. You could think of, there's all kinds of tools out there, but if I take the state of my C drive and if I copy it to another C drive somewhere else, so if I take the C drive out of this machine here, copy it, and somehow move all those files to one of these machines, when one of these machines boots up, we should see pretty much an unattended installation. I mean, my answer file wasn't great. There's some things that I should have put in there that I didn't, so it'll require a little bit of user interaction, but not a lot. So when I was going through and kind of testing this out, what I did is as opposed to like creating an image file, copying it to a DVD, using a DVD to push it out to the machine, at this point I just rebooted the model computer up and just checked to see if what I had on there, the answer file and the configurations worked, and it did. So I think what I'll do is I will ask you to trust me on it, and we'll move on. And let me just take our machine back to the state it was in. Snapshot Manager, we'll go to the Sysprepped state. Okay, so our machine has been Sysprepped and shut down. Alrighty, so now I want to take our WinPE CD and put it in this machine's DVD-ROM drive. So we'll have to go under Settings, and under DVD, use an image file, and we will specify to use the WinPE ISO that we created. Okay. Something else, I don't want to turn this machine on because I think the way the BIOS is configured on these VMs, it'll look through the hard drive first and the CD-ROM second. So I want to boot off the CD-ROM. And also, what you can't see is I've plugged in a USB drive into my physical machine, and I'm going to map that USB drive to this machine's USB drive, so that when I create an image file, I should have drawn it in here, but I want to take that image file and copy it to a USB drive that's connected to my model machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell this VM to boot up and go straight into BIOS. Once we're in there, I'm going to modify the boot order to tell it to go to boot off the CD first, and then I'm also going to verify that the USB drive is mapped to this virtual machine. You can't have two machines sharing the same USB drive, so I'll pause while it boots up. Oh, here we go, we're there. Okay, and I can connect my, it just said I can connect my USB drive to this VM. I'll do that first. I'll go here, connect from host, or connect and disconnect the USB drive from my host. So I might disconnect it from the physical machine, map it to my virtual machine. Done. Alright, the next thing is I'll go to my boot order. This is all through the keyboard now. And if we look, I'm just going to configure this to go to the CD-ROM first, hard drive second. So we're done. I will exit. press any key to boot off the CD. I'll do that. Okay, so now we're booting off the Windows PE CD, and the next step will be to create an image file from that C drive of this machine and copy it to my USB drive. Thanks for being so patient with this. We're getting kind of close to being done. I'll pause it while we run here, while it boots up. Alright, so we've booted up off the Windows PE CD, and if you think about it, I have a couple drives to worry about right now. I have a C drive. I think it's a C drive. That's the disk that has the operating system on it, my customized operating system. I have a CD-ROM in my computer that has the ImageX program that I want to run, and I have a USB drive attached. And I hate kind of guessing on drive letters, so we can actually use some of these utilities that we talk about in our Windows 7 class here. Disk part. I can see what disks are attached. Okay, I have two disks. I have a 60 gigabyte disk and a 700 gig. The 60 gigabyte, that's the one that VMware Workstation created for our virtual machine, so that's kind of where our OS is installed. And the 698 gigabyte one, that's my USB drive. I can also kind of get like a list of the drive letters here, list volume. Alright, so drive C is mapped to my 60 gigabyte partition. That's where my OS is. Drive D, that's my CD-ROM. Okay, and then drive E, that is my USB drive. I can kind of look just by looking at the volume label and the size, figure that out. So here we go. I'm going to copy and paste out of those notes. Oh, I can't copy and paste. That's right. Not in this Windows PE environment. So I'm going to the D drive to run the ImageX command, and I am going to capture an image of the C drive, and I'm going to copy it to my E drive, and I will just call this image demo.wim. And you also actually have to just put something in. It can be just a space, or put something in quotes. You can take multiple images and copy them to a single WIM file, which is why you have to kind of name them. So although our image file will only contain one image, you still have to label it. So now it's running, and this is going to take a while. It's going to copy the entire virtual machine's disk C drive, and it's going to copy it to my USB drive. So let's pause it and come back in a bit. Alright, we're done. So I have just used the ImageX utility to create a WIM file, a Windows image file, of our operating system's disk. We could take a look at that real quick. Let me just open it up here. Well, I think it was the E drive. Okay, so it's 2.5 gigabytes. It's called imagedemo.wim. That's a file that we just created. It's worth mentioning, what I could do at this point is I could take my USB drive and my Windows PE to another machine, boot it up. I could plug the USB drive in and the CD-ROM into this machine here, boot it up, and then when it boots up, I could use the ImageX command to apply that image to this computer. Now instead, what we're going to do is we're going to take that image file and we're going to apply it, or we're going to add it to a Windows 7 professional installation DVD, and then we'll use this DVD to deploy Windows 7. And this is where it gets a little bit, I don't know if it's tricky or what, but now I'm using some third-party tools, and I'll summarize what I did. To do that, I first need to disconnect that USB drive from my physical machine, from my virtual machine, and I'll open it up on my physical host computer. Okay. So I'm going to take the WIM file, imagedemo.wim, and I'm going to copy that onto, basically we're going to put it get it on, eventually under a Windows 7 DVD. And this is what I did to do that. I took a Windows 7 professional DVD. So here's the ISO for it here, which I got through our DreamSpark site. And I used 7-zip. Let's see if I have that installed in this computer here. Yeah. I used 7-zip to basically extract the files from that ISO file. So I took 7-zip, hit the extract button, and I just specified the location here, Windows 7 Pro DVD, to decompress, or yeah, I guess if you want to think of it, to decompress or remove all the files from the ISO file and put it back in the original folder structure. And then what I had to do is I had to go and find the install.wim file. That's the standard one that ships with the Windows 7 DVD, and I replaced it with ours. So I would take our image-demo.wim file and rename it, and then rename it install.wim, and just copy it into the sources folder here. So at this point I have the Windows 7 Professional DVD. Everything is the same except one thing. I've replaced Microsoft's WIM file with my WIM file. And my WIM file has, has a Windows 7 machine on it, but it's also configured with some additional applications and user accounts and that type thing. So now what do I do? So now I've got this folder structure that has the Windows 7 essentially the entire Windows 7 DVD on it. I need to burn it back to a DVD, and I used image burn to do that. I'm going to pause for a second because I need to get a DVD. You'll see why in a bit. Okay, I'm back. So I just had to I just put a Windows 7 DVD in my physical machine's drive. So now to the image burn demo. This runs a lot faster on this desktop machine compared to my laptop. So I want to create an image file from files and folders, alright? And here's the folder with our Windows 7 folder. I can't hit burn yet. And I'll go under advanced, and I have to make that resulting image bootable. This was just kind of from trial and error. So I first I want to make it bootable. And what I want to do is I want to create a boot image from a real Windows 7 DVD. So let me just pick our DVD here that has Windows 7 in it, and it's going to extract, or it's going to create a boot, I guess a boot image from that DVD. I don't know all what's in it, but I'll just hit the save button. Yes, it's done. Then Windows 7 or Image Burn asks if it would like me to kind of take that image file that I just created down here and populate the information up here. Sure. That's done. So at this point I've selected a folder with our Windows 7 DVD in it, and remember that folder has a new install.wim file in it. So I've replaced Microsoft's install.wim with our Microsoft.wim that's been customized, and I would just hit the burn button. It's going to make an ISO file. I can put that on my desktop, and we'll let it cook. Your image contains install.wim. Yeah, so Image Burn's a pretty good program. It's just asking if it wants, it's smart enough to realize that it needs to do some additional tweaking to make this resultant ISO file bootable. Yes. And we'll let it go. Well, that's running. We can actually just take a look at, because I've run through this once already, the I think I can. Nope, we'll have to let it just finish running, then I'll demonstrate using it. I take it back. I did keep a copy of this ISO file, so it's I had done this past weekend, so here it is done. And this again has our answer file in it, so now it's time to test it. Let's test it out. So we go back into VMware Workstation, and let's just turn this virtual machine off. Okay. We'll give it a second. It's I guess we can bump the RAM up a little bit. I have enough to spare here. And as far as the ISO goes, I want to use our new and improved Windows 7 ISO. And let's boot it up. Let's see what happens. I'll pause while it starts up. We see it starting to boot up slowly. I'll pause it again. Okay, we've booted up off the DVD. I can tell right now that if I were really trying to streamline things, I'd have to add a few more items to my answer file, but there'll be a few things we'll have to answer here. Install now. My answer file also does not include lines to partition the drive, so that's something I'll have to do through the Windows 7 installation DVD interface. Alright, I'm going to pick a advanced installation. I'm not doing an upgrade, I want to do basically a clean installation. Next, this step here will format and partition our our target machine's disk drive. And right now I'll just pause it while it runs through the rest of the installation. I think I'll be back in a bit. The Windows 7 machine is done booting up and we can log on now. And you can tell here's our customized image that was pushed out. If we take a look, we should see, for example, that unattend.xml file was removed because of that script that was added. Yep, so the unattend.xml is gone, and that concludes the demo. I hope this was helpful. Again, the real takeaway that I hope my Windows 7 students get from this is just a general flow of things. You create a WinPE CD, you create an optional answer file. You use those. You use a CD to create an image file of a computer, and then you take that image file and you can deploy that to other machines. You can deploy it either via this DVD method, or you could use ImageX to actually take and push that image out to your other target machines. And there's other ways beyond that as well. You can use servers to push it out, and but that's kind of beyond the scope of what I want to talk about. It's also, maybe as a last note, with your target machines, you depending on how you configure your answer file, you may need to pre-configure the hard drives on these and partition them prior to using ImageX to push them out. So that's just something you'll have to look up a bit more on your own. And I do have some additional screencasts on this. They were created for Vista, but they are practical, and they still apply. These tools came out with Vista. If we just go to my website real quick, I'll show you where they're at. Let's see here. Under student created screencasts, these two top ones here go through go through the process as well. The second one talks about using a DES server in a deployment process. So thank you for listening and have a great day.